This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by touringplans.com. And if you're planning that trip to Walt Disney World that's coming up soon, you're going to be saying to yourself, you know what? I don't want to wait in line. It's a natural reaction. I mean, who does, right? You want to ride all your favorite rides and you don't want to spend a lot of time waiting in line. It's boring. It's tedious. The kids get tired and start complaining. Heck, you start complaining, right? Well, you know what? There's a tool to help you bypass all those long lines and be able to see everything you want to do in one day. That's right. It's touringplans.com. They've got all the resources you need to get everything you need done in Walt Disney World. All the attractions, none of the wait. They've got all the tools. Go check them out online. They've got lots of great options at touringplans.com.
Bringing the world to your world, this is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Monday, March 14th, 2011, and this is episode 850 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for AllLeaders.net. Welcome, Mike.
You should have a view of the space station now, and you are on course for your slingshot around the moon.
Mission Space.
Mission Space.
Yes, the attraction that taught me what hair plugs really look like these days. Because Gary Sinise has hair plugs.
Wah, wah. Swing and a miss.
I guess so. Someone will laugh at that, I promise you. One person. Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Matt, they're not plugs. They're conveniently placed follicles and planted in the harvest area.
My mistake.
Come on.
On today's show, we are answering questions about the value resorts of Walt Disney World. That's, of course, Pop Century, a.k.a. Scopa Towers, and the All-Star Resorts, All-Star Music, All-Star Sports, and All-Star Movies. And, you know, a lot of people have lots of questions about it. We thought we would answer some questions from you, our listeners, about those resorts. And we'll start out with our first question, which is from Alistair from Belfast, Northern Ireland. I'm currently booking accommodations for our family trip at the end of August. Airfare from Ireland being what it is means we always stay at a Valley Resort. I've been checking prices on Disney's United Kingdom website and noticed that All-Star Movies is £60 or approximately $100 per week more expensive than the other All-Star resorts. I was curious why it's more expensive. Is there anything better about this resort than the other All-Star resorts? You know, this is a common thing. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but movies almost always is a little bit more than the other two All-Star resorts, music and sports. And the best way, the reasoning I've always found from it is just because people prefer the theme. People think the movie theme is the best of the three themes. So because of that, there's a little bit higher demand for it. And therefore Disney decides, well, since there's more demand for this resort, we can charge a few dollars extra to stay at movies. And but I mean, in terms of the actual resort, unless I'm mistaken, there's nothing different between the three except for the theme.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. I think it's just the theme. I think that the popularity of that particular portion of the All-Star Resort is a big factor in the price. The All-Star Sports is usually reserved for those times of the year when you have cheerleading and things like that, and I guess they try to keep that part of the All-Star Resort a little bit more frugal, pricing.
Yeah, well, that one's also the least popular. I mean, in terms of popularity, the most popular is movies, followed by music, followed by sports. Music and sports usually have the same pricing, and like movies is a little bit more. I'm surprised that it's actually his pricing has it $100 more. I'm not sure per week. Maybe that's why it's like, if he's staying for a week, so 100 divided by 7 is like, what is that? It's it's not $100 per day. It's just $100 over the course of the week. So it's not that much more per night. But to me, when I stay at All Stars, I always stay at sports. I feel like it's the least crowded. And for me, I would rather stay at a resort that's got the least amount of people, because then it's the least amount of people you have to deal with for buses, the least amount of people you have to deal with for in the main building, in the food court, and so less people in the pool, all those things. It all rolls downhill, and the price to me doesn't really make a big difference. Scope with the value to me doesn't make a big difference. Mike, to you, does it with the theme, the movie's theme, which arguably is a better theme or more desirable theme? Does the theme matter to you that much, Mike?
I don't think the theme matters to me when you're talking all stars or you're talking pop. The two values. I think that I really think that maybe the word has gotten out that the sports all-star sports is the home for a lot of these sports teams that go down there to participate in the world of sports activities, and perhaps that has driven the price up. And it's not theme; it's maybe people may want a little bit more quiet, and they feel they can get it at the movies, and maybe that's what drove it up. And so I don't think it's theme. I think it's awareness of what kind of clientele is staying at the various themed
What about you, Noel?
portions.
I mean,
Does the theme matter to you?
Sometimes, but lately, price really matters to me more than theme. So if the two resorts are offering the exact same amenities, I'm probably going to choose price over theme.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. Next email is from Justin Staub of Columbia, South Carolina, who's known as Tank in the live chats. Hoorah!
Hoorah!
Greeting, fellow Disney dorks. It's a term of affection, I assure you. I'm in the initial planning stages for a trip that's going to look like it'll be December 3rd through 10th, 2011, thus giving you plenty of time to answer. It seems that that'll be the week of Pop Warner football invades the Disney campus, and need a refresher on their effect on park attendance, including the following questions. Am I remembering right that these teams often spend relatively little time at their parks? They play their games at Wild World of Sports and head home as soon as they're eliminated? Yes.
I think that's the case. I think that's the case. I think they guaranteed so many games, but I'm not sure about that. I think that the impact on the parks are probably more at night than during the day.
Yeah, I see them. I actually see their impact. I can feel more at the resort than at the parks. You go to breakfast at the All-Star resorts, for instance, and you're going to notice them in the food court. I mean, most of the time it's not like they're throwing food or anything like that. You're going to see, wow, there's a lot of football players here, or a lot of cheerleaders. And that's just something you're going to notice. But again, I notice them more at the resort than I do in the parks. And those are the Pop Warner football players. The cheerleaders, I think you definitely see more in the parks, partially because their events are also centered in the parks. Especially in Hollywood Studios, they have events that go on in there. Justin writes, I know they stick the team at the All-Stars. As Pop Century also get an influx of kids.
Yeah. Just like we said earlier, those large groups. Usually, what's funny though, Matt, I don't know if you noticed that when sports overflows with those groups, they usually go over to Riverside.
Yeah, I think Annette was actually telling us that one time. I don't know if it was anecdotally or on the show, but she said that a lot of times the parents who are there are also saying, oh, I'm not staying at All-Star. I'm not saying whatever All-Star or Pop. They want a little bit of an upgrade, so they opt to go to a moderate resort, and usually that ends up being Port Orleans. You're right about that, Mike.
Right.
Yeah, but that's for the families. That's for those families that actually go down. For the players who don't have their parents down there, they probably probably in the All Stars. But yeah. I agree with Mike. Yeah.
And Matt, who was that person you mentioned? What was her name?
Annie.
Annie. Yeah.
Anita.
It's been so long. It's hard for me to keep track of her name anymore. She's just more of like a distant memory.
Yeah. I need a refresher course.
Aboo.
Our next question is from JD. On a recent trip, I had lunch at the Grand Floridian Cafe. The night before, I did evening extra magic hours at the Magic Kingdom and was very tired after eating. Since I was at Pop Century, getting back to the resort would have meant taking the boat launch back to the Magic Kingdom, then a bus to Pop Century. I was wondering what would happen if I asked for a room at the Grand Floridian for a couple of hours. Do you think I would have been removed from the resort? Being removed once from Magic Kingdom I don't think it would have fazed me.
They wouldn't remove them. They'd say a night is a night.
Yeah, they probably charge you regardless of how long you're going to stay. They'll charge you for the 24-hour time frame, but if you check out after 5 hours, you're still going to pay the full price.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, you can book a room. It costs $400 if you're lucky. I'm sure the rate can go up from there, and they'll give that to you. One thing I think it's probably more Becky than anyone. Becky Menken, who we talk to quite often, she always laments that there's not a hourly rate for Disney resorts at some point. Something like where you can stay there in a room for a couple hours, especially in the afternoon.
Like a day rate.
Yeah, exactly. You could have the room between noon and 5 or something like that. And,
right.
Just basically a place that, you this is a scenario you're in. You're tired. Your family needs a break, and you need somewhere to take a nap or just take a shower or something like that. Regardless, one of the two or both, having that opportunity. And that being said, I don't think it'll ever happen. But
or if you had a late flight, it would be convenient if you had a late flight out. You don't want to check out instead of checking out at 11. You could check out at 3, 4, then head over to the airport. I know the hotel, the Hyatt at the airport does that. You can get a day rate there and stay 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but none of the Disney resorts, I don't think, do that. They'll, like Mike said, they'll charge you the full rate, and you're stuck with that full rate.
Cool. Next email is from Kathy Angstrom. I'm a huge fan of the show, touring plans, as well as the unofficial guide. On our next Disney trip, which is scheduled for February, our 9 and 7-year-olds have been to the parks before, but this will be our first time to take our 2-year-old. Yes, I know the faux pas with some. I have us booked at Polynesian for ease of transportation, but my husband wants me to consider a Valley Resort for the savings of almost $1,000. Can you tell us how much time we can expect to spend on buses if we stay at Pop Century? We've always relied on Disney transportation. I know you recommend renting a car. Can you tell us how much time it saved you and what parking fees we will incur? We've never stayed at a Valley Resort in the past. We've stayed at Port Orleans, Caribbean Beach, and Wilderness Lodge. I know we won't have refrigerators, but can you tell me the difference we can expect? Like, will the rooms be much smaller?
Well, you can request a refrigerator. You can pay a daily rate for a refrigerator.
Yeah, that's right.
Number one.
You can definitely.
Number two.
The room is going to be significantly smaller than your deluxe resort you're used to, or at least that you would be getting at the Polynesian. Let's put it that way. The basic differences between the resorts. There's 2 major differences. Three. One, the size of the room. 2, the amenities of the resort. And 3, typically the travel time between your resort and the other parks. Meaning the Valley Resorts, and basically their value on all 3 categories, the Valley Resorts fare worse than the deluxe resorts. So that's, I think, a fair assessment to say. The rooms are going to be smaller. The travel time is going to take longer. And the amenities at your resort are going to be less.
Check out the unofficial guide. Len breaks down the rooms by square footage, so you can compare the two of how much of a difference it's going to be.
Yeah, one thing Len always recommends is he actually has the square footage, and if you take masking tape and go into the biggest your living room,
right,
and tape it out, you'll see tape out what the size of the deluxe room is and then the Valley Resort room, and you're going to see a huge difference. And there's no doubt about that. Now you've got 3 kids, 9, 7, and 2.
Wow.
That's going to be a tight fit for 3 in one room.
Yeah. That's tight for...
What do you think about this? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say that's tight for 2 adults, let alone 3 kids.
What do you think about this? A family of 5, I guess. Considering, they're going to save $1,000 if they go to a Valley Resort versus the Polynesian. I mean, what would be your advice to Kathy in this situation?
Okay, I think that what Kathy has to do, she has to think about convenience versus price. She also has to think about her time. If she is at Pop Century or All Stars or a Value Resort, she would probably more likely need a car than if she stayed at the Polynesian. So you have to throw that into the price count. So she might be saving $1,000 on the room, but she might be spending $100 or $200, whatever, for the car. And if she has 5, she may need a somewhat, decent sized car because of the luggage. So that's a consideration. I think that in addition to that, I just can't see 5 people in a Value Resort. I think that even in a moderate, I think it would be a stretch. With the Polynesian, I think you've got a day bed in the Polynesian, so you've got that. So everybody would be really, really comfortable. So it comes down to the convenience. It comes down to the cost. I don't think it would be $1,000. She might be saving something like maybe $700 or $800. But now we're talking about time.
Yeah, I mean, what I think really at this point, and Kathy, your situation really to me screams offsite. Since money's an issue for you, and it's very understandable, I don't blame you. You can get you can really have your cake and eat it too by staying offsite. I really believe that, because in this situation you can pay closer to your Valley Resort price, but get a much bigger room with a resort that has much better amenities offsite. Now this could be a couple of different options. Obviously, one of our sponsors is All Star Vacation Home. Full disclosure, they are a sponsor, but they offer great value in terms of what you get. You could go stay at a resort in the area that's going to give you. I mean, let me give you an example. Like an Embassy Suites, for instance, right? You're going to get a huge suite for your family, great on-site amenities that you're going to have. There's a restaurant there, there's a pool there, lots of other nice stuff. And you're going to pay, again, a fraction of that price for the Polynesian, but still be able to get a lot of space and the stuff that your kids are going to need. There's lots of great places to stay offsite. And I really think that a lot of times people just totally discount staying offsite is not an option. It's like something that this is putting it down, but it's a kind of, I'm overgeneralizing, but it's like, oh, it's what those people stay at. I can't do that. You shouldn't necessarily totally discount staying offsite. It's not like you're going to have to spend 30 minutes commuting. I mean, there's a lot of great resorts very close to Disney World, and they can offer you a great value. So I really would look into that option as well, because you may really start doing the math, and you're going to say to your husband, well, we could save, let's say $500, and I'm just throwing that number out. I have no basis for that. Versus the Polynesian, we're going to get a great room at the same size, if not bigger than the Polynesian, and we're going to get all these great amenities. You're going to have to rent a car, and Mike talked a little bit about that in terms of the convenience. Actually, she had a question. Kathy had a question about the renting a car. First of all, for parking fees, if you're staying on property, so if you're staying at any Disney resort, there is no parking fees because you'll be a Disney resort guest, and all you have to do is flash your. They give you a parking pass, so you won't have to pay the parking fees. If you're staying offsite, unless you have an annual pass, you will have to pay parking fees, which is $14 now a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe in that case, an annual pass will also be your best friend. Let's talk a little bit about what how much time the rental car saves you in terms of commuting. I mean, Newell, what's your experience in terms of I know you haven't you don't have stopwatch and you're like, oh, I saved myself 3.8 minutes, but talk a little bit about what your experience has been in terms of saving time versus taking buses.
Well, it depends on, number one, where your resort is located, and number two, what park you're headed. So when I stay at Old Key West, Epcot is the closest park to me at Old Key West, so it's a 5-minute drive. Yeah, I'm from the gate at Old Key West to the parking lot in 5 minutes or under, depending on how fast I drive. That would go similar to staying at Pop and the Studios, or the Beach Club and Epcot. Depends on where you're staying. Driving could be a breeze, or if you're staying, I don't know, downtown Disney, I think the farthest away is going to be Animal Kingdom. So you got to keep in mind where you're staying and where you're going to allow for a certain time limit of getting there.
Absolutely.
I think you also have to take into consideration, I agree with everything what Mike said. I think that the other thing to consider is what your touring habits are like. I think that the three of us can agree that we're all pretty much the same, and we jump around and we go from place to place when we're down there. We very rarely will spend all day in a theme park. But if you are one of those guests who prefer to stay either all morning or all day in one park, then maybe the need for a car isn't that strong. And especially if you are a young family and you're staying at the Polynesian and you're going to go to the Magic Kingdom a lot, well, maybe you don't need a car. But I think that what Mike said, knowing, being able to understand what park is the park that you're going to be going to, and how having a car increases or decreases the amount of time it takes to get there, and increases your park time. That's one thing. But the other thing is to remember and recall how you tour. I think those two things have to be kept in mind.
Absolutely. Our last question about the value resorts is going to be coming from Shelly Liska. Hey guys, this is Shelly from Upland, California. My question is about biting bugs in the winter was answered really quickly. I almost fell out of my chair when I heard it after I sent it. Wow, let's see how long it takes you guys to get to this one. We're heading to the world in December for our first time at Scopa Towers. Really looking forward to this experience. My question is about the wall safes and how big they actually are. All of the photos I can find on All Ears, TripAdvisor, etc. seem to show a door about 12 inches by 12 inches, but it looks like it's only about 3 inches deep. Is this for real? What can you put in a safe that size? The unofficial guide? Even the tiny cruise ship cabins we found have a cube-shaped safe. Whose design was this?
Yeah, they are definitely a lot shallower than the cruise line. I think basically it's to keep or store important papers like passports and stuff like that. I've been known to put my netbook in there and a couple other things, but nothing of any sizable fixture will fit in those.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got it right, Mike. I think the safes are really there to put like your wallet, extra money, passports, maybe basically that kind of stuff.
Plane
not
tickets,
not your expensive camera,
right?
And not your your iPod you could put in there because that's probably small enough, but not your computer, not your it's things of size like that. It's really it's a safe in that for I guess that kind of money and important documents like you said,
right? Train tickets, plane tickets, stuff like that. Now it seems that the higher you go in resort accommodations, the bigger the safe. So at the Poly, the safe's probably bigger than what you get at Old Key West, or at Sports.
Here's a question for you guys: do you guys use the in-room safes at Disney World? I should say.
Nope, I don't.
Yeah, like I said, I've put my netbook in there from time to time, but no, I once in a while, it's very rare that I put, like when I went with my passports, like I usually keep my passports in there.
Yeah, I think the only time I really used it in the past couple of years has just been like if we went on a cruise or something like that. We're coming back from the cruise and I haven't been a chance to stop at home or anything like that. I would throw them in there because passports are something you definitely don't want to misplace or anything like that.
Only because they're a hassle to replace.
Yeah, that's to say the least. Right. Yeah. If you lose a credit card, it's a hassle, but at least you're going to be able to get it back pretty easily.
Right.
And stop it. You lose your passports, oh boy.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't carry jewelry or anything with me. Maybe I'll put my iPod in there because that's easy to for someone to walk off with.
Yeah, if you want to really store something more larger that you're concerned about, like let's say your camera, for instance, your camcorder, get a suitcase that has locks in your luggage. No one's going to steal your luggage. They're just going to, if someone's going to steal something, they're looking for something a quick grab and go.
Right. And
oh look, there's a camera sitting out there. Let me grab that.
And I believe that every hotel has a major safe. So if you needed to if you needed to store something big safely, I'm sure you can go down to the front desk and they can store it for you there in their big safe.
Yeah, and I guess leave the crown jewels at home.
Or give them to me.
Very good. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Don't forget our next live show is going to be on Sunday, March 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be featuring AJ from the Disney Food Blog. She'll be there to answer your questions along with any other questions you've got for us. It's be on March 27th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Details at wdwtoday.com. If you'll find more of our shows, read our comments, or submit your own questions, you can go to our website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.